On the scale down, Heba and Osmond assisted in the search of my sisters and have found guidance through my new companions. We have found several Edamun camps, and with study of our new instruments, we began liberating the captive bodies of their possessions. At all odds, we had crossed paths with an injured Tengu. It held a relic passed down from Ninma to Konda. After a quick interrogation, the Tengu tells us it was left for dead at the hands of my sisters. They had escaped and were last seen headed south. We had arrived on the 9th day to the Ziggurat of Nippur, and at the steps, a radiant Merkaba appears, and out from the past, the hand of the fawn, Zes, is reached out. We are taken into a time flux, where we are met by Krysthala, Karta the Crazed, the Wise and Unparalleled Ibis, and Zes, who releases us back on the 7th day inside the tombs of Nippur. At the entrance of Nippur, the 7 of us are met in a chamber full of Draco beings, golden-feathered Anunnaki. In a ballet of energy and synchronicity, we began our assault as if we had been in each other's presence all along. Swift at our practice, we modulated the beasts within the day, freeing them back into the ether grid. Once the temple was taken, the Ibis instructs us to align ourselves. Root, sacral, solar plexus, heart, throat, third eye, and crown. Toned in, spirals of light and sound are emitted, traveling upward towards the center of Nippur. We had tapped into one of the first nodes of the grid, releasing the winged staff Caduceus, and a pair of snakes emerging from the ground, forming a helix around the staff. At the top, the Ibis places the mold of its stone. We had witnessed the creation, and not just of the previous earth, but of all, and understood its structure. The branching of life connected to it. Our company infused ourselves into the all by activating the Ziggurat of Nippur. We were now bound to it, to the consequences of Ascension, and it to us. Handing the staff to Krysthala, the Ibis then explained of the 11 other Ziggurats needing to be activated. However, the activation of this node will have alerted all of the Elysian from all planes of existence. The above from the below, and the below from above. This reaction of events had been set in place long before our assembly. The course of action towards the Ascension had begun. With governed haste, we linked with Zes and transmitted to the next node, the Ziggurat of Elora. Once there, Kalam, sustaining his possessions over the Black Mother, meets us inside one of the many chambers of the Elora temple. It was here in the battle against Kalam we began a deeper understanding of time. The manifestation of motion began the rotation, the emotional human feeling and the mental human thought. The feeling, as space brought spherical separation, circular diameter, and a linear radius. The thought as energy brought electric energy through physical matter, magnetic energy through the primal field, and the etheric life energy. It was at the 10th realm of time our strife parted ways, but had evolved to see our rooted connection. We were as Krysthala is of Asa. We had seen where the waves had begun, and where they were returning to. It was only Krysthala who continued onto the 12th realm, subduing Kalam.
I had entered a darkened chamber, no longer in the presence of my companions. The aura of dread and fear weighed heavy. Time stood still within these walls. An understanding of relativism. At the furthest end of the hall, I see the glow of the Black Mother, Ka, and dark ether flowing within and without her. There she sat, ever so silent, polluted by the disavowing presence of Kalam. As I neared, I sensed the weight of Ka's dread deepen, and then her voice.
Come no closer, Krysthala, first son of the dying. Its darkness will swallow your essence, as it has done mine. I fear I am lost in the abyss of Kalam's will, a chasm, untouched by light, the void of truth and love.
Then let us be rid of such void. Let us fill the chasm with the purest of light, so that even the valleys of the unyielding will be illuminated. You are no longer bound to the will of Kalam's empty shadow. I will be your beacon. An immense resonance blares from without Ka, the screech of Kalam's power, overtaken by my presence. Ka was fighting back within herself. As she separates herself from the subduing grasp of Kalam, the dark beast lunges towards me, leeching on to my Atman. I am taken into the great void, the waves of creation, the witness. However, my will is untainted, for I have experienced such emptiness. I search within for the radiance of Asa, and I become it as it was meant to be. A most fluorescent blaze of light releases me into the presence of Va.
Krysthala, it brings me much solace to be in your presence. I have been rejoined, and here Ka and I shall remain, within the seams of time and space. We are left in your fidelity.
When Krysthala reappeared, he glowed a most radiant of sounds. There, at the furthest chamber of the Eloras, we aligned ourselves, activating the second node of the grid. In doing so, Va had reformed into our plane and joined Ka once more, uniting consciousness and energy. And there, they remained till the end. We were growing harmonically in the moment. Closer to Asa, we sensed its pulse guiding us.
At the steps of Derinkuyu, we descend into the halls of mythology and are met by the storyteller. There, our conscious minds were allowed to interact in every myth created, since inscribed by thought. Cycles of lessons interwoven through the consciousness of all. We had witnessed beasts of folklore, creatures of legend, and champions of defeat and valor. At one point, I was no longer Heba the Saman. I became of another, of all. Grounded by many forms of the Inuit, I reached the deepest chamber where I met the rest of my companions. I could sense Asmon's hammer, Azaji's gong, Krysthala's staff, Zez's songs, and Karda's elements were guides, just as my relic was. But the Ibis did not hold his Ankh as we did. No doubt he had already partaken in such undertakings many times before. So, have I?
The all is mind, the universe is mental. Perhaps you and I can create a myth of our own. For in truth, all is myth. Myth is all.
We activate the third node of the grid, emitting another beam of light from the middle of the Derinkuyu ziggurat. The lower vibrations have surely been alerted of our actions. We await their arrival, but not at our next destination. The city of Mu could only be seen through a resonance of higher vibration, hovering over the fields of southeast of Nu Yeshua. Its frequency had casted illusion to reality for epochs hidden in plain view. We are welcomed by the Nakal, sentient beings of Mu, and taken to the temple of crystals where the frequency Arlis sat awaiting our arrival.
There is no beginning, and there is no end, for the only constant is change. Born of chaos as all, there exists a polarity of harmony, oneness. Where there is destruction, there will be birth, the masculine and feminine alike. Focus on balance, and you will understand the spectrum of light and darkness, and you will remember what it is. Asa. I am humbled by the grace of this congregation, just as vibrant as the last.
Arlis speaks directly to the Ibis, to the blue avian.
Thoth, a pleasure to be in your presence once again, old friend.
I've never truly left.
I fear the difficulty will only escalate as we reach the crux, and a crescendo of events it will be. The equinox approaches, as does the stargate of Nibiru. Krysthala, you must be ready. Once our ziggurat is active, our ionosphere will be susceptible to the atomic forces. So understand, our sacrifice is just as grave.
We are taken to the hall of Amenti, the library of mankind's recorded history. We are told by Arlis to reflect on days of antiquity and distant past. A slew of imagery overcomes our thoughts as we witness the continuous rise and fall of our ancestors. It is in this moment we realize the countless acts, lives, lived and lost, that have brought us here to this very juncture in time. We mustn't fail.
The voices had started when we arrived. It was already too late. My arrival to Mu had alerted the Marik of the Nakal's location. An army approached with their atomic weapons to consume on the Nakal's energy once more. We were instructed to leave by Arlis, assuring the city's atmosphere will outlast the onslaught. Lastly, we are instructed to close the gate at the ice caves in the Antarctica ziggurat, prohibiting the remaining onslaught of Marik from entering this realm. The fourth ziggurat was activated on our departure, leaving the fate of the remaining Nakal on us. The next ziggurat was the Gimpy tomb of the Dreamkeepers. It was here that I felt the most dread. The voices grew louder the further we walked in, and I could no longer tell which life I was living, a dream or a reality. There was no difference. Noticing my anxiety grow, the Ibis tells me,
Watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your words, they become actions. Watch your actions, they become habit. Watch your habits, they become character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny.
I had fallen asleep. I was once a wanderer. I was once the alchemist. It was I speaking to myself, and it became clear. This realm was releasing me of this grasp. The deeper I walked, the more free I became. Free of the voices, free of the laws that had held dominion over my Atman for so long. The guardians of the Dream Keepers appeared, and I asked of them to show me my destiny and awaken my consciousness, and so they did. A flurry of symbols, equations, images I had studied for and mastered, unleashed in this realm and the next. There was no longer a difference, no end, just new beginnings. Krysthala, Asmund, Heba, Azaji, Zes, the Ibis, and I all awoke in a circle. It was then that we had activated the 5th node on the grid. But we had unlocked much more. The ability to manifest that of the dream world. We departed to the next node, the ice caves of Antarcticos, without the assistance of Zes and his time flux, with mind of all, at our free will.